The $50 bill trembled in Emily's hand as she placed it in the dirty cup. She had no idea she was giving her rent money to one of the richest athletes in America. And Travis Kelce had no idea he was about to witness the most heartbreaking act of kindness he'd ever seen. "Please," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I know it's not much, but maybe it'll help with your medicine." Travis, hidden beneath layers of dirt and a raggedy beard, stared at the crumpled bills in his cup. This 22-year-old girl had just given him everything she had. He knew because he'd been watching her count and recount her money for the past 10 minutes, clearly debating whether she could afford to help. 3 weeks earlier, Travis had been sitting in his $3.2 million Kansas City mansion, scrolling through social media after another explosive online debate about wealthy athletes being out of touch with reality. The comments had cut deep, particularly one that read, "These millionaire players live in bubble. They have no idea what real struggle looks like." The criticism had been building for months. Despite his charitable work and community involvement, public perception painted him as just another rich athlete, disconnected from ordinary people's problems. The final straw came during a podcast interview where a host had challenged him directly. "Travis, you talk about giving back, but when's the last time you actually experienced what it's like to need help? When have you ever been truly vulnerable?" That question had haunted him for days. Sure, he donated millions to charity and made appearances at fundraising events. But the host was right. He'd never actually experienced what it felt like to be truly depend on the kindness of strangers for survival. That's when the idea struck him. What if he could experience homelessness firsthand? Not as a publicity stunt or a documentary project, but as a genuine test of his own assumptions about people's society. He wanted to know, in a world obsessed with social media virtue signaling, who actually cared about the homeless when cameras weren't rolling. The logistics had been complex. Travis worked with a professional makeup artist who specialized in theatrical disguises. They aged his face with wrinkles, gave him a scraggly beard, and used special techniques to make his skin look weathered and dirty. Contact lenses changed his eye color. Dental appliances altered his jawline. Even his own mother wouldn't have recognized him. He'd chosen a spot 3 blocks from his usual haunts in downtown Kansas City, close enough to observe people he might know, but far enough to avoid immediate recognition. His backstory was simple: a military veteran struggling with medical bills and addiction, trying to get enough money for prescription medication. The first week had been brutal and eye-opening. Travis experienced the invisible nature of homelessness, how people literally looked through him as if he didn't exist. Business owners shooed him away from their storefronts. Security guards moved him along from park benches. Parents pulled their children closer when they walked past. But it was the casual cruelty that shocked him most. People filming him for social media content without permission. Teenagers throwing food at him for laughs. A group of college kids who pretended to offer help, then laughed and walked away when he approached. "Is this what it's really like?" he'd written in a journal he kept hidden in his backpack. To be treated as less than human? Most painful were the interactions with people he knew, teammates, friends, even some family members who walked right past without a second glance, not because they were cruel, but because they simply didn't see him. It was as if his homelessness had made him invisible. By the second week, Travis had begun to understand something profound about societal blindness to poverty. The homeless weren't just ignored, they were actively erased from people's consciousness. Society had trained itself not to see them. That's when Emily appeared in his life. It was a Tuesday morning when she first stopped. Unlike everyone else who hurried past, she had paused, made eye contact, and smiled. "Good morning," she'd said simply. "How are you today?" The question had stunned him. Not, "Do you need money?" or "What's your story?" Just a basic human acknowledgement of his existence. I'm okay, miss. Thank you for asking." She'd reached into her purse and pulled out a granola bar and a bottle of water. "I don't have much cash today, but maybe this will help." As she walked away, Travis had called out, "What's your name?" "Emily," she'd replied with another genuine smile. "I'll see you around." True to her word, Emily returned every few days. Sometimes she brought food, sometimes a few dollars, but always she brought something more valuable: human dignity. She learned his fake name, David, asked about his day, shared stories about her own life. Through their conversation, Travis learned that Emily worked as a nursing assistant at Kansas City General Hospital. While studying to become a registered nurse, she worked double shifts to pay for school and rent a tiny studio apartment she shared with her rescued cat, Milo. The thing about nursing, she told him one day, sitting beside him on the bench where he usually panhandled, is that you learn everyone has a story. Everyone's fighting battles you can't see. Emily never preached or tried to fix him. She never asked intrusive questions about his circumstances or offered unsolicited advice about getting clean or finding work. She simply treated him as a fellow human being, deserving of respect and kindness. "You remind me of my dad," she'd confided during one of their conversations. "He was a veteran too. PTSD and addiction. It's a tough combination. He died when I was 16, but he taught me that everyone deserves compassion, especially when they're struggling." Travis had felt a profound guilt hearing her story, knowing he was deceiving someone so genuinely caring, but he justified it as necessary for his larger mission, understanding who really cared about society's most vulnerable people. What he discovered was that Emily represented a rare breed of human being. In 3 weeks of homelessness, she was the only person who consistently treated him with dignity. Others occasionally gave money, but their interactions felt transactional, a quick exchange to assuage guilt rather than genuine human connection. Emily was different. She saw him as a person, not a problem to be solved or ignored. Now, as he stared at the $50 she'd just given him, money he'd overheard her telling a friend she needed for rent, Travis felt something he'd never experienced before. Not just guilt for deceiving her, but overwhelming awe at the depth of human generosity she represented. "Emily," he called out as he started to walk away. She turned back, concern evident in her eye. "Yes, David? Why?" he asked, his voice cracking with genuine emotion. "Why do you keep helping me? You barely know me, and you clearly don't have money to spare." Emily was quiet for a moment, then sat down beside him on the concrete steps where he'd been panhandling. "Because," she said softly, "everyone deserves to know that someone cares about them, and because I know what it's like to feel invisible." In that moment, Travis Kelce, millionaire athlete, celebrity, Super Bowl champion, realized he had just met the richest person he'd ever known. Travis couldn't sleep that night. He lay on the cardboard he'd arranged behind a dumpster, staring at the $50 Emily had given him, and felt something he'd never experienced in his privileged life, the weight of someone else's sacrifice. He pulled out his hidden phone and researched everything he could about Emily Martinez. Through social media and public records, he pieced together her story. She was 22, had aged out of foster care at 18, worked 60-hour weeks to pay for nursing school, and had been struggling financially since her car broke down 2 months ago. The $50 she'd given him wasn't just her rent money. It was probably the difference between her eating for the next week or going hungry. "What have I done?" he whispered to himself in the darkness. The next morning, Travis positioned himself at his usual spot, hoping Emily would return so he could somehow give the money back without blowing his cover. But as hours passed with no sign of her, anxiety gnawed at him. Around noon, he overheard 2 nurses from Kansas City General talking as they passed. "Did you hear about Emily Martinez?" one said. "She called in sick today. I think she's just embarrassed." "Embarrassed? About what?" "Her landlord called the hospital looking for her. Apparently, she's 3 days late on rent, and they're threatening eviction. Poor girl's been working doubles for months trying to stay afloat." Travis felt sick. Emily wasn't at work because she'd given him her rent money and now couldn't face the consequences. That afternoon, he made a decision that would change everything. He called his assistant, Jason, from a burner phone he'd kept for emergency. "Jason, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to not ask questions." "Travis, where the hell have you been? Coach Reed has been looking for you, and Taylor's been worried sick. You missed practice, and..." "Jason, listen to me carefully. I need you to pay someone's rent. Anonymous. Her name is Emily Martinez. She lives at Sunrise Apartments on Troost Avenue, Unit 247. I need you to pay her rent for the next 6 months, but make it look like it came from a hospital assistance program or something. Can you do that? 6 months of rent? Travis, what's going on? Are you in some kind of trouble? Just do it, please. And Jason, if anyone asks, you haven't heard from me." The next day, Travis was back at his spot when Emily appeared, but something was different. Instead of her usual warm smile, she looked exhausted, stressed. "Hey, David," she said, sitting beside him. "How are you feeling? Did the money help with your medication?" The question hit Travis like a physical blow. Even in her distress, her first concern was for his well-being. "Emily," he said carefully, "you don't look well. Are you okay?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Just some housing stuff. Nothing I can't figure out." She paused, then looked at him with concern. "But you look worse than me. Are you eating enough?" Before Travis could respond, Emily's phone rang. She glanced at it and her face went white. "I'm sorry, I have to take this," she said, walking a few steps away. Travis could hear enough of the conversation to understand what was happening. Her landlord was calling to inform her that an anonymous donor had paid her rent through the hospital's assistance program. "Are you sure?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. 6 months? But I never applied for— "Yes, I understand. Thank you so much." When she hung up, she was crying. Not tears of sadness, but of overwhelming relief and gratitude. "David," she said, returning to sit beside him, "something amazing just happened. Someone paid my rent. I don't even know who, but someone knew I was struggling and helped me." Travis felt a complex mix of emotion, relief that she was safe, guilt for his deception, and something else he couldn't quite name. "That's wonderful, Emily. You deserve good things." "But that's just it," she said, wiping her eye. "I don't feel like I deserve it more than anyone else. There are people struggling everywhere, and somehow I got help when others didn't. It doesn't feel fair." "What do you mean?" Emily looked at him directly. "I mean, here you are, needing help for your medication, and I gave you my rent money yesterday. Now someone paid my rent, but you're still here struggling. It's like the universe played some cosmic joke." Travis stared at her in amazement. Even receiving life-changing help, her immediate thought was about the unfairness of him not receiving similar assistance. "Emily, about that money you gave me yesterday." "No," she interrupted firmly. "I don't want to hear it. I gave it to you because you needed it, and I don't regret that decision. My situation worked out, but that doesn't change the fact that you're still struggling." She reached into her purse and pulled out a $20 bill. "This is what I would have spent on groceries this week, but with my rent situation resolved, I can stretch what I have a little further. Please, take it." Travis couldn't believe what he was witnessing. This young woman, who'd just been saved from eviction, was still trying to help him. "Emily, I can't take your grocery money." "Yes, you can," she said, pressing the bill into his hand. "Do you know what I learned in nursing school? Sometimes the best medicine isn't pills or procedure. It's knowing someone cares about you. And I care about you, David." That evening, Travis made another call to Jason. "I need you to set up a grocery delivery service for Emily Martinez. Weekly deliveries, everything she could need, but make it anonymous. Maybe say it's from the hospital employee wellness program or something." "Travis, you're starting to scare me. What's going on? Should I call your mother?" "Jason, trust me. This is the most important thing I've ever done. Just please help me." The next week, Travis watched as Emily received her mystery grocery delivery. Instead of keeping all the food for herself, she began bringing him fresh sandwiches, fruit, and hot coffee every day. "Someone's looking out for me," she told him with wonder. "So I want to look out for you." It was then that Travis understood something profound about Emily's character. Receiving help didn't make her grateful to the point of passivity. It empowered her to help others more. Every blessing she received became a blessing she tried to share. By the end of his 4th week undercover, Travis had learned more about human nature than any psychology course or life experience had ever taught him. He'd witnessed the casual cruelty of society toward its most vulnerable members, but he'd also encountered the purest form of human kindness he'd ever seen. Emily wasn't helping him because she had excess to share. She was helping him because she understood suffering and refused to let others experience it alone when she could do something about it. As Travis prepared for what he'd decided would be his final week undercover, he knew he faced the most difficult decision of his life. How do you reveal a deception to someone whose trust you've gained through lies, especially when that person has shown you the very best of humanity? The answer would come sooner than he expected, in a way that would test both his courage and Emily's capacity for forgiveness. Travis had been planning his reveal for days, but fate forced his hand in the most unexpected way. It was a Friday afternoon when everything unraveled, not according to his careful plans, but in a moment of crisis that stripped away all pretense. He was sitting at his usual spot when he heard screaming from the nearby intersection. A city bus had collided with a delivery truck, and passengers were stumbling out, some clearly injured. Travis's first instinct was to help, but then he remembered his disguise and hesitated. That hesitation lasted exactly 3 seconds, until he saw Emily running toward the accident scene. her nursing training kicking in automatically. "Call 911!" she shouted to bystanders as she knelt beside an elderly woman who was bleeding from a head wound. "I need clean cloth and water, anything you can find." Travis watched in amazement as Emily took charge of the scene with professional competence that belied her young age. She triaged victims, directing other helpers to assist those with minor injuries while she focused on the most serious cases. But then he saw something that made his blood run cold. A teenage boy had been thrown from the bus and was lying motionless near the back of the vehicle. Emily hadn't seen him yet, too focused on the victims in front of her. The boy wasn't breathing. In that moment, Travis forgot everything about his experiment, his disguise, and his deception. Years of NFL training had included extensive CPR and first aid certification. Someone was dying, and he had the skills to help. He sprinted toward the boy, dropping to his knees and immediately checking for a pulse. Nothing. He began chest compression with the precise rhythm and force he'd been taught, counting aloud. 1, 2, 3, 4. Emily looked up from her patient and saw David performing perfect CPR technique. Her eyes widened in confusion. "David, where did you learn to do that?" "Not now," Travis grunted, continuing compression. 15, 16, 17. After 30 compressions, he tilted the boy's head back and gave 2 rescue breaths. Then back to compression. Emily abandoned her patient to another bystander and rushed over. "Let me take over," she said. "You must be exhausted." "I've got it," Travis replied, not breaking rhythm. "Check his pulse on my next break." Emily placed her fingers on the boy's neck during Travis's next pause for rescue breath. "Nothing. Keep going." They worked together for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Then, suddenly, the boy coughed, and his eyes fluttered open. "Oh my God!" Emily breathed. "You saved his life." As paramedics arrived and took over care of the victim, Emily pulled Travis aside, her expression a mixture of admiration and confusion. "David, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." Travis felt his heart racing, and not from the physical exertion of CPR. "What you just did," Emily continued, "that wasn't luck or instinct. You have professional training, advanced training. Who are you, really?" Travis looked into her eyes, eyes that had shown him nothing but kindness and trust for weeks, and knew he couldn't lie anymore. "Emily, I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me for it. Try me." Travis looked around at the accident scene, at the crowd of onlookers, at the news crews that were beginning to arrive. This wasn't how he'd planned to reveal himself, but there was no going back now. "My name isn't David, it's Travis Kelce." Emily stared at him blankly. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." I'm a professional football player for the Kansas City Chiefs. I've been living undercover as a homeless person the past month as an experiment, to see how people really treat the homeless when no one's watching." The color drained from Emily's face. "You're joking." "I wish I was." Travis reached up and slowly removed the contact lenses that had changed his eye color, then pulled off the dental appliances that had altered his jawline. Even dirty and bearded, his famous features became recognizable. Emily took a step back, her hand covering her mouth in shock. "Oh my God, you're really... But that means all this time I've been lying to you." "Yes, the money I gave you, the food, oh God, the rent money." Emily's voice was rising with each word. "You let me give you my rent money when you're a millionaire? Emily, please let me explain." "Explain what?" she snapped, anger replacing shock. "Explain how you've been playing dress-up as a homeless person while I've been worrying about you. Explain how you watched me struggle to help you when you could have bought this entire block." Travis had expected anger, but seeing the hurt in Emily's eyes was worse than any verbal assault. "It started as an experiment," he began desperately. "I wanted to understand how people really treat the homeless. But Emily, meeting you changed everything. You showed me." "I showed you what?" "How gullible poor people are. How easy it is to manipulate someone who actually cared." "No, that's not." "Was this all for some TV show? Some documentary about how charitable you are? Were there cameras I didn't see?" "Emily, no, there are no cameras, no TV show. This was never about publicity." Emily laughed bitterly. "Right. The famous football player decides to slum it with the homeless for fun, and I was just entertainment." "You weren't entertainment. You are the most genuine person I've ever met. You changed how I see everything." "How you see everything?" Emily's voice cracked with emotion. "Do you have any idea what you've done? I gave you money I needed for rent because I thought you were struggling. I worried about you when you didn't show up. I brought you food when I was hungry myself because I thought you needed it more. Travis felt tears welling up in his eyes. Emily, I know how this looks. No, you don't. She was crying now, tears of anger and betrayal streaming down her face. You don't know how this looks because you've never actually been desperate. You've never actually wondered where your next meal is coming from or whether you'll have a place to sleep tonight. You're right, I haven't. And that's why I did this, to try to understand. Well, congratulations, Emily said sarcastically. Did you get what you wanted? Did you learn about the human condition? About how the other half lives? Yes, Travis said quietly. I learned that there are people like you in the world, people who give everything they have to help others, even when they have nothing to spare, people who see someone suffering and refuse to look away. Emily wiped her eyes angrily. Don't you dare try to make this about me being some kind of saint. I'm not. I was just trying to help someone I thought needed it. And you did help me, just not in the way you think. How can you say that? Everything was a lie. The kindness you showed me wasn't a lie. The dignity you gave me wasn't a lie. The fact that you're the only person in this entire city who treated a homeless man like a human being, that wasn't a lie. Emily stared at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. You know what the worst part is? She finally said. I actually started to care about you, about David. I worried when you didn't show up. I saved food for you. I even prayed for you. Emily, don't. Just don't. She turned to walk away, then stopped. The money you made me take, the rent that got paid, the groceries that appeared, that was all you, wasn't it? Travis nodded silently. Keep your guilt money, Emily said coldly. I don't want anything from you. As she walked away, Travis called after her desperately. Emily, please, let me make this right. She turned back one last time, her face a mask of hurt and disappointment. You can't make this right, Travis, because the person you'd need to make it right with, David, the homeless veteran I thought I was helping, he never existed. The video appeared on social media within hours. Someone at the accident scene had filmed Travis performing CPR and posted it with the caption, "This homeless guy just saved a kid's life with perfect CPR technique. Something's not right here." Within minutes, internet detectives had connected the dots. Comparison photos started circulating, showing Travis Kelce with and without his disguise. By evening, Kelce homeless hoax was trending nationwide. Travis sat in his mansion that night, cleaned up and back in his real identity, watching his phone explode with notifications. The story was everywhere. Major news networks, sports blogs, social media platforms. The narrative was almost universally negative. NFL stars' sick homeless cosplay experiment exposed. Travis Kelce mocked homelessness in bizarre social experiment. Chiefs player fakes being homeless, deceives Good Samaritan. But it was the local Kansas City news story that hit hardest. They'd found Emily and convinced her to give an interview. Travis watched in agony as she sat across from a reporter, her face composed but her eyes still red from crying. Emily, tell us about your experience with the man you knew as David. I thought I was helping someone who needed it, she said quietly. I gave him money I needed for rent because I believed he was struggling to buy medication. I brought him food when I was hungry myself because I thought he needed it more than I did. How do you feel now? Knowing it was all an elaborate deception? Emily was quiet for a moment, betrayed and foolish, but mostly sad. Sad for yourself? No. Sad for all the real homeless people who will suffer because of this. People will see this story and think, what if that homeless person is just another rich person in disguise? They'll use this as an excuse not to help. The reporter leaned forward. Are you angry with Travis Kelce? I'm angry with the lie. I'm angry that someone would turn human suffering into an experiment, but I'm mostly just disappointed. Have you heard from him since the revelation? He's tried to contact me, but I have nothing to say to him. Travis turned off the TV, unable to watch anymore. His phone buzzed with a call from his publicist. Travis, we need to talk damage control immediately. This story is everywhere, and the angle is terrible. We need to get ahead of this with your side of the story. Maybe I don't have a side, Travis said quietly. What do you mean? Of course you do. This was research, right? Understanding social issues? We can spin this as philanthropy gone wrong, a learning experience that... Stop. Travis's voice was firm. I'm not spinning anything. I deceived a good person who tried to help me. There's no good spin on that. Travis, you're not thinking clearly. Your brand, your endorsement, your reputation. My reputation should be damaged. What I did was wrong. The next morning brought a knock at Travis's door. He opened it to find Jason, his assistant, holding a manila envelope. "This was delivered for you this morning. No return address." Travis opened the envelope and found Emily's medical school application material, along with a note in her handwriting. "Travis, I've withdrawn my application to the nursing program. After what happened, I can't accept financial aid that I don't know the true source of. I'll work full-time and save money to reapply next year. I'm returning the rent money to the hospital. They said it was from a benefactor, but I suspect it was from you. I don't want anything that's connected to your experiment, Emily." Travis felt sick. Emily was giving up her dream because of his deception. That afternoon, he drove to Kansas City General Hospital, where Emily worked. He waited in the parking lot until her shift ended, then approached her as she walked to the bus stop. "Emily, please, just give me 5 minutes." She didn't stop walking. "I have nothing to say to you." "Then just listen, please." She stopped and turned to face him, her expression cold. "You have 2 minutes. I know what I did was wrong. I know I hurt you and violated your trust. But Emily, you can't give up nursing school because of my mistake. How did you—" She stopped herself. "Of course you know. You probably have people watching me now, too." "No one's watching you. Jason told me about the rent money being returned, and I put 2 and 2 together about school." Travis stepped closer, his voice pleading. "Emily, you're going to be an incredible nurse. You can't let my stupidity ruin that. I'm not letting your stupidity ruin anything. I'm taking control of my own life without accepting money from someone who lied to me. The hospital assistance program is real. I didn't create it. I just encouraged them to consider your application." Emily laughed bitterly. "So now you're lying about your lies? How far down does this go, Travis? I'm not lying. The program exists. You qualified for it, and you deserve that help. It has nothing to do with what happened between us. Everything has to do with what happened between us. Don't you see? I can't trust anything anymore. Was the boy at the accident really hurt? Or was that part of your experiment too?" Travis stared at her in shock. "Emily, you can't seriously think, I don't know what to think. You lied about everything else. How do I know what was real and what was performance? Because you were there. You saw that boy stop breathing. You helped save his life. After you conveniently appeared with perfect CPR skills that homeless David shouldn't have had." Travis felt the conversation spiraling away from him. "Emily, I swear to you, that accident was real. That boy's life was in danger, and we saved him together. That moment had nothing to do with my experiment." "Your experiment?" Emily shook her head. "That's what I was, part of an experiment, a test subject." "No, you were never part of the experiment. You became something else entirely." "What?" Travis took a deep breath. "You became the person who taught me what real goodness looks like, what genuine compassion means. You showed me that there are people in this world who will sacrifice their own well-being to help others without asking for anything in return. Stop trying to make this about what you learned. This isn't your inspiration porn story." "You're right, it's not. It's about what you lost because of my selfishness. Your trust, your peace of mind, your financial security, and I need to find a way to make that right." Emily looked at him with tired eyes. "You can't make it right, Travis. You can throw money at the consequence, but you can't undo the lie. You can't give me back the version of David I thought I was helping. Then let me give you something else." "Like what?" "The truth. About everything. About why I really did this, what I learned, and how meeting you changed everything I thought I knew about people." Emily checked her watch. "You have 30 seconds left. I want to donate $1 million to Kansas City General's Patient Assistance Fund, in your name. Not secretly, not anonymously, publicly, so everyone knows it's because of the kindness you showed to someone you thought needed help. I don't want— It's not for you. It's for all the patients who will get help because of what you taught me about giving. And Emily," Travis's voice cracked with emotion, "I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know that meeting you was the most important thing that's ever happened to me. Not because of the experiment, but because of who you are." Emily stared at him for a long moment, then turned and walked toward the bus stop. "Emily," Travis called after her, "what you showed me, that level of compassion, that willingness to help even when it costs you everything, that's not common. That's extraordinary." She stopped, but didn't turn around. "Don't let what I did make you stop being that person," Travis continued. "The world needs people like you. It needs that kindness, that willingness to see the humanity in everyone." Emily finally turned back to face him. "You want to know the real tragedy, Travis? It's not that you lied to me. It's that While you were pretending to be someone who needed help, there were real people who actually needed help who didn't get it because you were taking up space. With that, she got on the bus, leaving Travis standing alone in the parking lot, finally understanding the true cost of his deception. 6 months after the revelation, Travis stood before a packed auditorium at the University of Missouri-Kansas City, preparing to deliver a speech he'd never imagined giving. The title projected on the screen behind him read, "The Privilege of Deception, What I Learned by Lying About Being Homeless." In the audience sat homeless advocate, social worker, student, and members of the media. Near the back, almost hidden in the shadow, sat Emily Martinez. Travis had spotted her when he'd walked on stage, though she'd clearly tried to remain unnoticed. 6 months ago, Travis began, I thought I was conducting a social experiment. I disguised myself as a homeless person to see how people would treat me when they thought I had nothing. What I discovered was that I wasn't conducting an experiment. I was participating in one. And the results weren't about society's treatment of the homeless. They were about my own character. He clicked to the next slide, which showed statistics about homelessness in Kansas City. There are approximately 1,200 homeless individuals in Kansas City on any given night. While I was playing dress-up for a month, those 1,200 people were actually struggling. While I was taking up space on a street corner with my fake sign, real people with real needs were being overlooked. Travis paused, looking directly at the section where Emily sat. During my deception, one person showed me extraordinary kindness. A young woman who gave me her rent money because she believed I needed medication. She brought me food when she was hungry herself. She treated me with dignity when the rest of the world looked through me. He clicked to the next slide. A photo of Emily in her nursing scrubs, taken with her permission for this presentation. This is Emily Martinez. She's now a registered nurse, having completed her education. Despite my interference in her life, everything good that has come from my experience stems from her example. Travis gestured to a banner hanging beside the stage. Tonight, we're announcing the Emily Martinez Foundation for Homeless Service. This foundation, funded entirely by my NFL earnings, will provide direct assistance to homeless individuals in Kansas City, including medical care, job training, and housing assistance. Applause filled the auditorium, but Travis raised his hand for quiet. But the foundation isn't the real story tonight. The real story is what happens when privilege masquerades as struggle, and what we can learn from the people who show kindness anyway. For the next 20 minutes, Travis detailed his experience with brutal honesty. He talked about the cruelty he'd witnessed, the indifference of society, and his own naive assumptions about homelessness. But he spent most of his time talking about Emily. Emily taught me that true compassion isn't about having excess to share. It's about sharing even when you don't have excess. She taught me that dignity isn't something you earn through circumstance, but something you give and receive through basic human recognition. As he neared the end of his speech, Travis did something unexpected. He invited several actual homeless individuals onto the stage. I want you to meet Marcus, Sandra, and James. They're real people experiencing real homelessness in Kansas City. They're not here as props or inspiration porn. They're here because they have insights about their experiences that matter more than anything I learned during my month of pretending. Marcus, a 45-year-old veteran, stepped forward to the microphone. What Mr. Kelce did was wrong, he said bluntly, but what he's doing now matters. The Emily Martinez Foundation has already helped 12 people get off the streets permanently. That's 12 real lives changed. Sandra, a woman in her 50s who'd been homeless for 3 years, added, "The hardest part isn't the cold or the hunger. It's being invisible. People walk past you like you don't exist." What Emily did, seeing someone as human, that's what we need more of. James, barely 20 and homeless since aging out of foster care, concluded, "I don't care about Mr. Kelce's experiment. I care that Emily Martinez shows there are still good people in the world." After the other speakers finished, Travis returned to the podium for his closing remark. "I can't undo the deception. I can't give Emily back the trust I violated or the peace of mind I disrupted, but I can ensure that something positive comes from my mistake. He looked directly at Emily in the audience. 6 months ago, Emily asked me a question that haunts me. She asked what would happen to real homeless people when my story came out, whether people would use my deception as an excuse not to help others. Travis clicked to his final slide, showing donation statistics. Here's what actually happened. In the 6 months since my story broke, donations to Kansas City homeless services have increased by 340%. Volunteer applications have tripled. Emily's interview, where she talked about the real homeless people who would suffer from my actions, inspired more charitable giving than any publicity campaign. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. Emily was wrong about one thing. She said people would use my story as an excuse not to help. Instead, her response to my story, her focus on how it would affect real homeless, inspired thousands of people to help more, not less. As applause filled the auditorium, Travis stepped away from the podium and walked directly into the audience, stopping at Emily's row. "Emily," he said, his voice barely audible over the clapping, "I know you'll probably never forgive me, but I need you to know that every good thing that's happened since that day, the foundation, the increased donations, the people getting help, it all traces back to your interview, to your compassion, even for people you've never met." Emily looked up at him, her expression unreadable. "Travis, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you understand now why what you did was wrong? Really understand?" Travis nodded slowly. "Because homelessness isn't a costume you put on to learn about society. It's a reality that real people live with every day. Because taking up space as a fake homeless person meant real homeless people had less space. Because turning human suffering into a personal learning experience is fundamentally selfish. And because I violated the trust of someone who showed me genuine kindness, someone who gave me everything she had because she thought I needed it." Emily was quiet for a long. "Travis, I need you to understand something. I can't forgive you for the lie, but I can forgive you for being human enough to recognize the harm you caused and work to fix it." She stood up, and for the first time in 6 months, she looked him directly in the eyes. "The foundation is good work. Keep doing it. But don't do it for me, and don't do it for forgiveness. Do it because it's right." As Emily turned to leave, Travis called after her one last time. "Emily, thank you. For what? For showing me what real goodness looks like. For teaching me that kindness isn't about what you can afford to give. It's about what you choose to give anyway." Emily paused at the end of the row. "Travis, there's something you should know. The day I found out who you really were, I was angry and hurt, but I wasn't surprised." "What do you mean?" "David, the person I thought you were, was too kind, too interested in other people's story, too concerned about whether I was okay. Real homeless people are usually too focused on survival to worry about other people's problems the way you did." Travis stared at her in confusion. "Are you saying you knew?" "I'm saying the person you pretended to be was too good to be true. Real desperation doesn't leave room for that much empathy for others." Emily smiled sadly. "But here's the thing. The kindness you showed me while pretending to be David, that was real. That came from you, not from the character you were playing." "Emily, the Travis Kelce I met disguised as David was kinder and more interested in other people than the Travis Kelce I see on TV. Maybe that's who you really are when you're not trying to be a celebrity." With that, Emily walked away, leaving Travis standing in the auditorium with a new understanding of himself and the complex nature of truth, deception, and redemption. A year later, the Emily Martinez Foundation had helped over 200 people transition out of homelessness. Emily had been promoted to head nurse at Kansas City General's emergency department, and Travis had learned that sometimes the most important experiments are the ones that happen to you, not the ones you design. The homeless veteran he'd pretended to be, David, had never existed, but the lessons about compassion, sacrifice, and human dignity that Emily had taught him were real. And in the end, that made all the difference.